And welcome to another Cardinals Nest. This is HBC TV 25, and this is the show where we talk about St. Mary's University athletics. I'm the faculty athletic representative, Dean Beckman. Donny Nadeau is our sports information director, and today we're going to be highlighting women's basketball. We've got junior Claire Patterson, who's on the women's basketball team with us today. And Donny, anytime we want to have a guest, we want somebody we can count on. And Claire, being a math education major, I knew we could count on her.
That's absolutely right. And you know, I mean, it's been fun to watch Claire the first 3 years of her career, and hadn't had her on yet, so I think it was a good time to bring Claire on. So
absolutely.
Welcome aboard, Claire.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right, so Claire, we've already found out one thing about you. You're a math education major, but we haven't had you on the program before. So tell us, you're from Marine, Minnesota, so tell us a little bit more about that and your basketball career at Stillwater and kind of how you got interested in basketball as a youth player, and then also how you ended up coming to St. Mary's.
Yeah, so I'm from Marine, Minnesota, which is a very small town, but I went to Stillwater, so it's a suburb of the cities. Getting into basketball, I think I was playing basketball by the time I was like 4 years old. I had two older brothers, and my oldest brother played basketball, so I'd always watch him and grow up watching him, and we had a court outside our house, so just playing with him. And
any backyard one-on-ones?
Oh yeah, and I never won. I'm still waiting for the day.
So he didn't go easy on you, is what you're saying.
No, but
and then how did that sort of transition then into high school basketball?
So then I played traveling basketball throughout middle school and just played as much basketball as I could, AAU in the summers, just crammed it all in there. And then I did a couple other sports in high school. I ran cross country and track, and so I did that, and basketball was my love and my passion, and grew up playing it, so I knew I wanted to go into college and play basketball, so I was just kind of looking at my options, and St. Mary's was...
And how did St. Mary's become your choice?
So I was looking at a few other ones. St. Kate's and St. Scholastica were probably my other two. St. Scholastica, I kind of narrowed down not going there because I liked the competition of the MIAC better. To say you're in one of the best leagues in D3 sports is pretty cool. And St. Mary's versus St. Kate's, I just really felt loved by the team, and I came down. I did a visit actually in the same weekend. So I went to St. Mary's like one night, and I think the very next night I was at St. Kate's doing an overnight. And I just really loved the team atmosphere, and I just felt wanted and needed at St. Mary's, and it just felt like home.
Donny, I know one of the things we appreciate about Claire, just watching her, is the energy that she brings to the team.
No question.
Right?
Claire, can you talk a little bit about your adjustment from high school to college? I ask everybody that comes on that same question because it's a completely different game. And then when you add into it, like you said, the MIC portion of it, it's got to be a little bit of an adjustment coming from high school to college.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely hard. It's a very different game, like you said. I think the biggest thing is it's much faster at the college level. So getting used to that, and I was a very fast player in high school. So actually for me, it's been kind of adjusting to slowing myself down, and I'm still working on it. But just kind of figuring out the pace of the game has probably been the hardest part.
Well, slowing yourself down, we were just talking about the energy that you bring. That's all natural. Do you have to pump yourself up before a game, or do you just have it all the time?
I definitely don't have it all the time, but for games, it's just kind of got so much adrenaline running through me that it just comes out, and I love the game. I love to play, so very competitive, and I think that just drives me.
You know, we were talking a little bit off camera before we started taping, and we talked about the fact that you only have one senior on the team this year. So a lot of that leadership, especially on the court, has to come from the junior class, and yourself included. Talk a little bit about being one of those leaders, and is that something that you're comfortable with, or is that something you've kind of had to learn to do as the first 3 years have progressed?
Yeah. So we actually voted for captains. Our team votes for captains, and this year we have 3 of them. And as you said, there's only one senior, so 2 of them were junior captains. So it's kind of been a weird adjustment because you're dealing with people that are the same age as you, but you're technically in a leadership authority position over them. So it's kind of a strange adjustment, but leadership, so I'm actually a leadership minor too. So I love leadership, but that's another thing that's kind of came naturally to me. I was captains in all 3 sports in high school, and so I just really love the energy in the team, and being a point guard also, you kind of control the pace and the flow of the game. And so getting into that leadership position on the court and off the court has just been.
So Claire, as the faculty athletic representative, I love any time we can tie classroom to on-court experiences. Of course, the leadership minor also happens to be in the Department of Communication, where I teach. So maybe talk about some specific lessons you learned in the classroom that you are now applying to the basketball team.
Oh man, leadership.
Dr. Sorvag is counting.
I know, he's watching this, I know. There's so many lessons that leadership has taught me, and it's honestly just kind of taught me how to be a better person, and to work with big groups and just kind of getting everyone's input. You, as a leader, like, just because you're a leader doesn't mean that you're like in control of everything. Like, you still want the entire group to be a part of everything. So really getting input from the entire team, and then just trying to communicate with everyone has probably been the biggest part, and just that communication.
You have the advantage of being the guest first rather than Coach Foley. So this next question, you're safe because he hasn't said anything. But talk a little bit about playing for Coach Foley. You know, last year was his first year, so you're in year 2 of the Foley regime. Talk about the adjustment that you guys had to make last year and moving that into this year.
Yeah, so my freshman year, our coach was Coach Polerai, very structured in what he did. And so with Coach, and I am not a very structured person. I liked a little bit more free-flowing. I just like the game of basketball because there's so many variables that can happen. And so when Coach Foley came in, I remember like he called us that summer just kind of talking about who he was, what he wanted to do with our program, and just listening to him talk about basketball, I found myself just aligning a lot of my thoughts with what he wanted to do. And so when he came in, I was really excited and looking forward to it, just because I felt like I could play a little bit more of my style and it fit a little bit better towards me. So it was really fun for me to just kind of be able to go out and play basketball and kind of make things happen and create for other teammates. You
know, of course, as a math education major, she had to get the word variable. We noticed, Claire. We noticed. So talk about this season a little bit. Hasn't gone the way you wanted from a win-loss standpoint, but there certainly has been progression for the team throughout the season, kind of culminating in last week's big win over Bethel. So that had to be just a fantastic feeling and sort of justification, right, for everything that you've been trying to implement this year.
Absolutely. Yeah, like, it's been frustrating. Just being a competitive person, you want to win, you want to leave every game winning. And it hasn't gone our way, but coming out of most of these games, I mean, we've had so many like 2-point losses, we've had overtime games, we've had close games, and it's just kind of, we've had stretches that haven't gone our way, or, you know, loose balls that end up in their hands. And so it's just kind of a few plays gone wrong in games, but with only one senior graduating, we have pretty much our whole team coming back, and with the big win over Bethel, it just kind of proved to us that we can play with anyone in the nation, in the MIAC, in the nation, whatever. We have a lot of talent on our team, and when we play together and when we play our hearts out, like, we have so much talent and ability to win, and that's a big positive booster going forward for next season too.
As one of the leaders, and we touched on this a little bit, but how do you make sure to keep everybody on the same page in a season like this that really hasn't gone the way that you wanted or the way that you expected? You know, how do you make sure that everybody continues to work hard and realizes that, as you said, with only one senior, this core is coming back next year?
Yeah, I think just kind of highlighting that and pointing that out to people is it hasn't gone our way this year, but we've done a lot of really good things this year, and if we all continue to get better over the summer, we have so much potential going into next year. And I think just realizing that and just trying to keep everyone on the same page and looking at that positive instead of all the negatives from the season, that's going to be the big thing.
You know, Claire, for you personally, I look back at your season-by-season statistics, and every year has gotten incrementally better. How'd you like that word, Donny?
Good. Here we go. Math education again.
How have you seen your personal game evolve over these last 3 years? Because right now, this year, you're kind of experiencing career highs in pretty much every category.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, like, figuring out how to slow myself down was kind of the biggest adjustment. And I think each year the game has I've let the game come to me instead of trying to force the game. And so just kind of letting, each game is going to call for something different. So there might be a game where I need to score a little bit more. There might be a game where I need to pass the ball and get my teammates involved. Rebounding is a big one that I started out freshman year, and I've never been good at rebounding. I'll say that. But it's something that I've kind of made a conscious effort to decide to do a little bit more. And that's probably the biggest one for me, with rebounding and assists are kind of my biggest.
I think we kind of glossed over a little bit rather than focusing on. I want to go back to last Saturday and your game against Bethel. You go into that game, they're ranked 5th in the country, hadn't lost in 20 games. I mean, this was definitely a David versus Goliath type of a game. I got to imagine that even the people in the stands probably were saying, okay, let's just hope we keep it close. From a player standpoint, talk about how big a win that was for this program, this team, especially this year.
It was huge. I mean, I've said this week, people have come up to me and congratulated me on the win, and I've said, this is probably a top 5, if not my top sports moment of all time. Just kind of having that win is huge. I mean, you don't realize how big it is, just seeing their faces after, and a lot of people were they said, oh, I didn't get to see your game, but I came back and we were in the Hall of Fame room and we just saw Bethel girls crying and emotional, and so it was just it's kind of surreal. It's been trying to sink in all week that we did that, and so it's super fun, and just being able to play the sport you love and to get that big win and to do it with girls that have become your family it's been really fun.
It was one of those games that it seemed like, and I'm not going to put anything on Bethel, but it seemed like maybe they were taking you for granted. You come out and you score 15 of the first 16 points, and really that had to just energize you guys and say, hey, wait a minute here, we can do this.
Yeah, and we really came out we knocked down so many shots right out of the gate, hitting threes. Always is a booster coming out, but our game plan defensively was really just shut down their top three players and force more of their role players to kind of step up and make shots and be a hero. And I think we just did a better job of, we were playing as a team and getting everyone involved, and they were, some of their girls did step up, but we shut down their main ones and got them frustrated, and it was just turned out in our favor. So.
Claire, time for one more question. Math education major, have you thought about what you might want to do after next year? You got a little time yet, but any future plans at this point?
So I'll be student teaching next fall, but then after that I will probably move back home, look for a teaching job, ideally in the high school. I really like the high school kids, just being able to kind of have conversations with them and get to know them a little bit better. And with that, I would love to coach basketball as well.
All right, Marine Stillwater, she wants to come back, so that's good. All right, Claire Patterson, thanks for being on the show today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, stay tuned here to the Cardinals Nest. David Foley, the head coach for the Cardinals women's team, is on next on HBC.
This is Bobby Flay.
I'm coming for you, Bobby.
They say he's never had to eat his words. But if he did, they'd be delicious. They say the word flavor was named after him. They say he can make an omelet without breaking an egg.
We were hoping for that.
They say you can beat Bobby Flay. What do they know? Beat Bobby Flay, Thursday night at 10 on Food Network.
I always knew I wanted to be a gold miner ever since my grandpa taught me how.
I've been talking for years now about going mining on my own.
There's gold out there. We're gonna find it.
We're down on Eureka. The only piece of ground I got left to mine is underneath your license.
We're gonna have to buddy up somehow.
Give me one good reason not to tell you to go yourself.
Are you prepared to change, Parker?
All new Gold Rush, Fridays at 8 on Discovery.
You seek the open road, the ride. Big cities, main streets, countrysides. In search of dives, you got to try. Bold flavors, dipped and glazed and fried. And by your side, there sits the guy. The car, the hair, the shades, high fives, the brisket, corn chip pies that bring tears to your eyes. You seek the open road, the ride. We've got your order. We've got your guide. Diners, drive-ins, and dives. Friday night at 9 on Food Network.
Welcome back to the Cardinals Nest. Dean Beckman, Donny, Nadeau, and David Foley, the head coach for the Cardinals women's team. Today our spotlight is on women's basketball, and David, Claire Patterson, one of your junior players, was just on the program in the previous segment. You heard her talk about you. Turnabout is fair play. It's always better to have the second chance to go, right?
That's true. And Claire did a great job on the show, and I was excited to spotlight her with our fans and supporters, and she's really stepped into a different role. And like you said, the year by year kind of growing each year, and she's done a great job stepping into this new kind of expectations, a new role, and we're excited about the future for her and the rest of that big junior class, and then our sophomores and incoming freshmen. So it's been an emotional season. It's been a lot of ups and downs and close games and lessons and just a lot of learning and teaching and growing together. And Claire's been with us every step of the way.
You know, you heard Donny and I talk about her energy.
Yep.
That's something I think as a head coach you can count on, right? Yep. Game in, game out, and that's irreplaceable.
For sure, and just, anybody that watches us play and sees her flying around the court, especially on the defensive end and in an offense, crashing and going hard to the rim, and sometimes we do need to slow her down a little bit. She goes through the pad, especially in our gym, our wall's so close to the baseline, but she just has that relentless kind of attacking mentality. And really our program is going to be built on that kind of attacking and relentlessness across the board, and it's exciting to have a player like that. And we're still going to continue to work with her and refine her game, and we've seen this last week and a half or so her really grow into a distributor with having 7 assists against Augsburg and Bethel last week, to be able to use their talented teammates and her ability to get to the middle of the floor or get to those spots and then still stay on balance and make plays. And then defensively, she's somebody that's going to be on top of the ball, and we put her in a lot of tough positions where it's you against this really quick and fast point guard, and try and stay in front of her and get her to a certain place on the floor. And she definitely goes out there and puts her full force forward.
How about her rebounding? She talked about that. That's an area that she admits was never her strong point, but she's been working on it. How is it?
And it's getting better. I think rebounding at her height, I think it's just you got to go kind of find those balls. You're not jumping up to get them. We'll go get them around down near the floor. But for Claire, really, we harp on our guards to go rebound, because if they get those rebounds, then we're out in transition and going fast the other way. And some of our best offensive game is when we're able to attack an early offense and get a team off balance a little bit right at the beginning of a possession. There's some really, really good teams and really, really good coaches and really, really good systems that we go up against on the defensive end. We ran into one last night at Carleton, and if we know that we can attack early and get stops and play out of transition, that puts us in an advantage on the offensive end.
You know, it seems with Claire, her vision. Her vision on the court and what she sees. Sometimes, I mean, she'll make passes that you just kind of go, how did you even see that? There were 3 people standing there. How did you, and a lot of times I'll look at, photo galleries, and you just see she's looking this way and the ball is going this way. I mean, it's got to be nice for you to have somebody who just sees the court as well as she does.
Yeah, and I think from a preparation standpoint, when you played as much basketball as she has, and a lot of our players have played a lot of summer AAU, have played at a high level in high school, that play throughout the summer when they can, that you just have a feel for some of those things. And when the way we practice, and we do a lot of 5-on-0, we do a lot of competitive, just kind of 5-on-5, we're trying to put them in those situations that it's not, basketball is not a scripted game at our level. I mean, you got to be able to read and make plays and see your teammates, especially in the offensive end. And to have a player that can do that, and then you pair her with Hallie and Evelina, and then Ashley, a freshman off the bench, and a lot of our talented guards that can get to the lane and make those plays. And then we've got people that can finish those plays, so to have somebody that can get the ball there is very important.
You mentioned maybe a little bit different matchup last night against Carleton. What I found really interesting is you have, at that time, you had 4 games left in the season, and you hadn't seen Carleton yet. That was the first time you played them. Actually, the only time. Is that difficult in terms of preparation? Because usually at this time of year, you're going, okay, we played them, let's look at the film of the last time we played them, but you had not seen these guys with 4 games left in the season.
For sure, and that's this is the way the schedule shook out. It was the same with Augsburg the week before, and it just kind of changes our routine a little bit, how we prepare to get into a personnel 2 days before, and then get into a more kind of game plan that game before, where this last month has been, hey, let's look at what we did the first time we played them and how we're going to change up how they're playing differently now than how they did a month, 2 months ago. So it did change things up a little bit, but with them, especially with a coaching change and bringing in a Hall of Fame coach like they did, that has multiple conference championships in our league and has done some really great things throughout her career. When you play them at the end of the year, they're really honed into what they do, and we ran into a team that really did some things defensively that gave us issues. They were ready to play. They hit some big shots, I thought, similar to what we did on Saturday against Bethel. They came out and jumped on us in that first quarter, put us in a hole, and we climbed back slowly, and then they came out in the third quarter and jumped on us again. We kept fighting. We just didn't have enough time to get ourselves back in that position to get to single digits and get back in that game.
You know, it's really it's a great example. We talked about the Bethel game and how you jumped out to a 16-1 lead. And it is a little bit, I'm not going to say easy isn't the right word, but when you're playing with a lead rather than Wednesday night where you're down 21-12 after one and you're fighting just to get back into the game, it's a completely different way of approaching the game. And I want you to talk a little bit about Saturday against Bethel, because it was one of the few times that you've been able to get out to that lead and kind of, just play with a lead that was a large lead like that. Talk a little bit about that Bethel game.
Yeah, I think in the Bethel game it was, I don't know, we talked with Claire and coming into that game and what our expectations were, and we knew that we had to value the ball, that they're a team that just puts tremendous pressure on you for 94 feet, and we turned it over 28 times the first time that we played them. They've turned teams over 30 times a game throughout this season, and they're really, really good when they can play that way. And really hats off to our players for taking that challenge and only turning the ball over 19 times. And part of that is scoring the ball, and when you put the ball in the basket, we're able to get into a flow and a rhythm. But part of it was what we were doing defensively too, that we were limiting them from scoring and limiting them the ability to step up and go right into their full court pressure, and gave us an opportunity to get out and get the ball across half court before they could really get set up, and that was a good thing for us. And just from an emotional standpoint, from just a program standpoint, to get ourselves a little positivity and and not that we can't take positives from every game, but winning is the name of the game for all of us, and we're going to continue to learn and grow, and just to show that we're able to compete, and to see our players after that game and throughout that game, that we've had so many games where we've led going into the fourth quarter. I think about the first half of our conference season. Our first 4 losses, we had the lead going into that fourth quarter in 3 of those 4 games, and we were right there in that fourth one. And just those little plays that go one way or the other, or not being able to put the ball in the basket in a way that we did throughout the season, and to see them just be resilient and tough. And they made a run, they cut it to 4. And from the bench, it's hard not to. We're like, oh man, here we go again. Like, please do not happen. Please do not happen. I can't take this anymore. But just to see them come together, they huddled on the floor, the bench, the timeouts. They were tight. They were, hey, we got this. And for me to see that from them really let me step out and say, oh, yeah, go get it and go win this game. And then the celebration on the floor, the celebration in the locker room. I had to go to the dry cleaner to get my suit. I tell you that, after the water bath and the Gatorade shower. For sure. But it was just fun to see them, to be able to celebrate all their hard work and all the things they've done, and to know that, hey, we are good enough, and hey, we are on the right path, and we are doing these things. And yes, we put ourselves in a tough position and lost more games than we should have or could have. But we know when we put our minds to it, when we go out there and do it together, that we're going to be in a good position.
When you know that this team, they've fought every game. There hasn't been a game where you're 1-11 and they're saying I'll just phone it in, and then to see their faces coming back from the locker room after that Bethel game, coming back up into the gym, maybe to greet their parents or whatever, and the smiles on their faces. It just had to make you feel very proud, because in a year where the wins haven't been there, you come up with probably the biggest win we've had in at least a decade, knocking off the 5th-ranked team in the country. You probably couldn't have picked a better game to win in a season like this.
Yeah, and I think the word you said, proud, was how I felt. It was an emotional day for me as well. There wasn't words to put up around it. It was, even just sitting in my office afterwards and with Natalie and our support staff, and just how proud I was of them, and how in a season like this, and it wouldn't be easy, but just you could go into a game like that and be like, yeah, let's keep it close, but we don't feel like we had. But that's not the mentality that we had, that they were competitors, that they went out there and fought, and just couldn't be more proud and happy for them to have that experience, for us to have that experience, and to understand that, hey, we now have these last 3 games of the season. We go up against a very good Hamlin team here at home. We went to overtime. We feel like we let one slip away the first time we played them. We have Gustavus, who jumped on us at their place. and they've been in a great position, that top 25 conversation all year. And then we closed the year at St. Thomas, who was another very talented, very skilled, and a historically just a great program. And we've got a great opportunity to close this thing out and be competitive and get ourselves in a position that, hey, we're not in the tournament this year. Hey, we didn't put ourselves in that position to be competitive throughout a season, but we know what it takes now. And coming into next season, we're going to be ready to go.
You know, you mentioned Saturday, Hamlin, senior day.
Yep.
And we haven't touched on your one senior.
Yep.
She got injured early on and hasn't been able to play. But talk a little bit about what Michelle Reamer has brought to this program, because she's there every day and as much a part of this team not being able to play as she probably would be as
For sure.
You know.
And Michelle's going down with her injury was a big blow to us. She is a versatile player. She's a 6-foot guard that we really were going to have in the top of our pressure and put us in a position to be a little more fast-paced in certain lineups, and she can do a lot of things. I mean, last night she came in and played just over 10 minutes and had 6 points, 6 rebounds, so she does a lot of different things to impact the game. So her going down, and then just for her in her senior year, you're one senior, she had a lot of personal goals and expectations, and was a big part of what our plans were. So that was a big blow, but she stayed steady with it. She was a great encourager. She was a great leader for our younger players, and was constant, like you said, there every day. And now that we're able to hopefully get her back to full speed, there's three games left to go, and we're going to finish this strong for her and to really cap off her 4-year career. And in my conversations with her, say, I know this didn't go our way, but you can be, I mean, your legacy and what you mean to our program can go beyond just what wins and losses are this season. How do we finish? And then put on top of that what she is as a student and just a leader on campus. To be a 4.0 student all the way through your, and we got one semester to go, but I'm pretty confident to say she's going to have another 4.0. To be the female scholar athlete of the year within our entire athletic department. Just to be steady and just involved on campus, and she's that true student athlete. And I know our young players really look up to that, how much drive she has to be the best student, person, and athlete she can be. So I'm really excited to have her back on the floor. I know our team is as well. And we're going to finish this thing strong for her, too.
David, just 30 seconds left, so quick answer here on this last one.
I don't do that very well.
Going forward, what do you want from your team this offseason? What are sort of your off-season expectations coming up here?
Yeah, we just got to get better. As a coaching staff, we're going to get better. As a team, as an individual standpoint, from a strength and conditioning standpoint, we just got to get better. And I think that's the mentality that we're going to have going forward. And part of that is feelings of hey, we should have done better. But no, it's just, hey, we are in one of the toughest conferences in the country. We go up against, we're going to play another tough schedule. We're not going to go and schedule a bunch of lower division teams. We're going to go after people, and we just got to get better. And that's going to be my perspective, and I hope all of our players have that same perspective too. Hey, we just got to get better.
All right, David Foley, our head coach for the women's basketball team. Good luck here in the final 3 games, and thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. Go Cardinals.
All right, that's going to do it for the Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25.
A secret piece of history right there. Literally swinging from vines. Let's solve the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. This place really is like a time machine.
Nobody's been inside this for 75 years.
It's a staircase. You really have dug yourself into a hole there, haven't you? Oh, hey, look! It's an SS helmet.
Expedition Unknown, all new, Wednesdays at 8, followed by the Expedition After Show. It's all Josh, all night on Discovery.
Is that right?
How's the view down there?
It's like blowing my mind. We put on a little bit of weight, huh, big guy?